right, we have returned. We are in a multiple part conversation, audio, video, YouTube, as I look at all the YouTubers out there, and whatever forms this may take. As in the past, we've been able to get some of your material and our interviews into articles and manuscripts. And today's gathering here in the studio, along with some of the friends of Brad, Marina, Ann, Elizabeth Rose in the studio with us, our co-host on the radio show, and Clifford Carnicom, who's doing some of the multimedia behind the scenes, is all about the Korporate Kannibal Kookbook. I'll hold this up again. You've probably seen it before. Here it is, the Korporate Kannibal Kookbook, subtitled "The Empire is Consuming Us. Either we eat them or they eat us, so let's get cooking." And Brad has a great sense of humor. Some of the recipes in here specifically speak about different elements of who's going to get cooked or eaten. And that was item 2 in this long list of strategic planning of 7 different things that we need to do to change the world before we get eaten. We being the impoverished, the poor, the middle class, which I've been claiming is disappearing for years. And Brad has the courage to write about this. We are into the cookbook, all spelled with K, Korporate Kannibal Kookbook. And Brad's
it's about consuming the consumers. It's like basically the way to have consumerism interrupted so we don't consume the whole world and then die off because we've killed our host. Is to start consuming the consumers.
And we certainly overconsume in the ways that we have established the values of our society. And that's why we have such deep environmental and resource problems on the planet Earth.
But that's why cannibalism is the consummate solution.
Yeah, eat what has been the excesses,
right,
and reconvert that to sustainability. You want to talk about the last one we talked about was build and begin to use a truth machine. If you missed that, go back to that. By the way, Brad's website is radicalhonesty.com. If you want to follow along and check his website out. But at this point, we're to number 5 of 7. This says create a new, deeply democratic form of government and demonstrate how it works. And I know there's going to be a few people thinking, well, we already have a democracy. What's he talking about? So pick up on that, if you would.
We don't have a democracy. We have a plutocracy with a bunch of phony representations as though we were democratic.
Can you define plutocracy? Because I know
plutocracy means the rich people call the shots, basically.
Is that related to an oligarchy? Because I've heard that used too.
Well, yeah, it's very related. I don't know what the exact distinction between is, but basically it's that the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer.
Okay.
It's like lots of old saloon songs from Great Britain, you know.
Okay.
They were right.
They knew that. Well, it started back there, even as we talked about earlier. It's been imported to this country, after those who left oppressed out of Europe came here to get a freedom start.
Right.
So talk about this number 5.
All right. I guess I wanted to say one more thing about the truth machine. It precedes the others because the more you're capable of telling when people have been lying, then the easier it is to sort of clean up your past so that you can give people a new break and they can have a new beginning, or else you can just end them up.
And again, this comes from your work of 30 plus years as a psychotherapist, as a trainer, teacher. You've been working with people individually and in groups, and they go through a lot of stuff when what wasn't true comes up to the surface and they see it. But it works, you're saying.
Right.
So we can do this on a global scale.
Right.
All right.
But the source of a new democracy is that there's a group of people you can see on the internet, the National Committee for Dialogue and Deliberation, NCDD. And there's a great book by Tom Attlee called The Tao of Democracy, and a great book called The World Cafe. And the World Cafe model is what I'll talk about briefly, because what happens in World Cafe is that you get a bunch of people in a room, say 40 people drawn at random from the voter rolls. And you say, we would like for you to focus on this particular question. The question is, what should be the proper relationship between government and corporations? And they're just people drawn at random from the voter rolls. And so you ask them to sit down at these cafe tables, which are only 4 people around a table. The cafe tables have a paper tablecloth, and they have pens and markers and some water for them to drink. And you say,
are there experts too? I mean, are they guided or facilitated?
No, there's a facilitator for the whole room, but and for each table they elect someone to be the secretary or the chairperson to keep notes on the conversation. And they say, we'd like for you to have a 25-minute conversation with each other from whatever you know and whatever you feel about things with regard to the relationship between government and corporations. So they take off and talk. They have a talking stick. So if someone's talking too much, you just take the stick away and then shut up. If somebody's not saying anything enough and you want to hear from them, you give them the stick. And if people trade the stick around and they talk for 25 minutes about the relationship between government and corporations, and the table secretary keeps notes on what the main points of the conversation are, and the rest of the people can write or draw pictures on the tablecloth as well. And after 25 minutes, a little bell rings, and the person managing the group says, okay, 3 of you, all but the table chairperson, stand up, mill around, and go sit down at another table. So they all split up and go sit down at other tables, and another group of 4 is made up. And then they say, okay, now we'd like for you all to have a conversation about the relationship, the proper relationship between government and corporations. You can briefly review what was talked about at your previous table, and then go ahead and continue the conversation. So they do that for another 25 minutes. Then a little bell rings, and again, everyone except the table chairperson keep taking notes for the 3rd conversation, but everybody get up, mill around, sit down, and have a 3rd conversation. So you've had 3 iterations of these 25-minute conversations. What happens here is that everyone gets heard. Everyone gets to speak. It's just 4 people, so you're not like performing in front of an audience. You're actually engaging each other.
Mm-hmm. It's safer, I guess. People feel like there's a circle there, a square or a circle, but
it's safer and it's smaller and it's like more nurturing. It's more encouraging of whatever ideas you have about this. You don't have to be an expert, but people have a certain amount of expertise to bring to this, and you can have experts inform the whole room. You can have them talk about what the issue is if you want. But after the 3rd iteration of this, everybody takes a break and goes to the bathroom, gets some water or something, and then they all come to a great big room. So we got, say, these 40 people in a room. But we have the people that were table chairs take the tablecloths and put it on the floor in front of them and report on all the ideas that came up in their 3 meetings that were 25 minutes long. And everyone who was in those meetings, if they think they left something out, they can go ahead and talk more about it. So it's a very raucous and rowdy group of people who are very happy because they feel like they've contributed and that they've been heard. And what comes out of this is something called co-hearted co-intelligence, where people are very happy and feel like they've participated. People, when I run these in districts, when I ran for Congress, people said, I've known these people, some of these people in this room for 25 years, and we have never had a conversation like we had tonight. Meaning that they come up with brilliant and unique ideas and basically this has been done enough that it's been demonstrated that the brilliance of the ideas and the creativity of the ideas that emerge are greater than any single person there could have come up with. That is, that the co-intelligence, co-hearted co-intelligence, is more brilliant than any individual intelligence can be.
And I would imagine that given this system, that all possibilities would eventually be synthesized, and that the results of that would be far more accurate and in coverage of what any one expert could bring to the table.
Exactly. It synthesizes all expert information. In fact, experts participate in and change their minds about their ideas. Yeah. And even political parties, a group of people in Canada there was a big dispute between the people who were opening up a new thing on the edge of this lake and the people that wanted the lake to be for the people, and they worked it out so that they built this beautiful structure with a bridge going out over the lake for everybody to go for a walk, and they didn't have to put in the parking garage that was going to be ugly. They made a beautiful parking area that was part of the promenade, and everyone in the city was happy about it, and they all worked it out because they did it using World Cafe technology.
And we're going to take another break here. We're on number 5, but maybe we'll pick up on this cafe technology a little bit more and then go to number 6.
Okay.
Brad Blanton, our featured guest in audio and video, along with friends in the studio. We shall return. By the way, the website is Brad Blanton. It's radicalhonesty.com.
Right.
Radicalhonesty.com. And the book is Korporate Cookbook.
The Korporate Kannibal Kookbook.
With 3 Ks, the Korporate Kannibal Kookbook. We explained that before. We might summarize here after this.